to BPW Goes Digital. The topic for today is cybersecurity, and this is a part 2 video. And today it is about mobile device security. The speaker for today is Alexandra Simona from BPW Grand Cayman. She was the young representative for the year 2014 to 2020, and she was elected as the second vice president of BPW Grand Cayman in the year 2020. She has a master's degree in software engineering and is about to finish a PhD in information assurance and security. She is a certified informational system security professional and also a certified information privacy manager. She has around 14 years of experience in ID and security management. So with this, I would like to welcome Alexandra to hear more about mobile device security. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to BPW Cybersecurity series. My name is Alexandra Simonova, and today we'll go into the second session of the series, which is mobile device security. I hope you had a chance to watch the first one, dedicated to security and collaboration technology. And same as last time, we will start with the general introduction to the cybersecurity and threats, and then we'll talk about specific threats related to the mobile devices, as well as the tips to protect yourself. Hope you enjoy. So I covered that in a lot more detail in the first session. Just to recap, let's think about who might attack us from BPW perspective. So the attackers fall under several broad categories. First, cyber criminals. That's the broader category, so basically anyone who may wish to do us harm based on their motivation. There are also hacktivists that are agenda-driven and most commonly political agenda-driven. There are also nation states that is one of the most difficult threats to bear. There are also insiders. Unfortunately, insider threat is still one of the most common in all types of organizations. And the last one's skilled individual hackers. A lot of those are opportunistic hackers that just basically go on the internet and try to find their target and try to see when and who they can attack. So what could they be after? Because some of them could be after a political agenda that would motivate them to create some issues, I would say, either to create disruption of the organizations, or they may target individuals as well. So those threats would be relevant to both us as clubs as a whole, as well as individual members, especially in our work with the human rights organizations. Some of them could be after threat on intellectual property, and as well as their personal data. Theft of personal data has unfortunately become very common for cyber criminals, and it's very lucrative business for them. There's also financial fraud. Financial motivation is always there for the hackers. There, from the risk perspective, there is also reputational damage and disruption of our operations and our ability to perform as the clubs that work with others. And in the worst case scenario, there is a threat to health and safety. So based on those motivators, what tactics may the attackers use? They can use social engineering, including common phishing that would be targeting everyone, as well as more targeted phishing called spear phishing. They can leverage software or hardware vulnerabilities, especially related to the mobile devices that we'll talk about in more detail. They can leverage third-party compromise if some third-party applications or services are used. They can also use multi-channel attacks. So, for instance, start with the phishing attack that will escalate to leveraging vulnerability in other applications or services, and as well as stolen credentials. There are three pillars that are protecting the individuals. And this is the categorization of the pillars are Deloitte terminology. I work for Deloitte, I'm a director there, but Deloitte is not affiliated with UPW. Just we will use some of Deloitte terminology to better explain the cybersecurity essential pillars. The first pillar is security. That's basically defending from the known threats and looking at the perimeter, looking at the basics of the data protection, identity management, such as usernames for the members, and well as asset management. So what do we have? For instance, we have LinkedIn accounts, we have Facebook accounts, we have personal data that we collect from the members. All those items can become assets of the clubs. After we protect things that we are aware of, that we know, we need to start thinking of how we can protect ourselves from things that we don't know. So understanding threat intelligence, common threats to human rights organizations, to different types of organizations. If we working with specific vendors, threats that could be associated to them, vulnerabilities that could be associated to them, as well as having some type of monitoring and behavior analysis. A lot of attacks originate from social engineering. And that means that it's not just about technology, it's about us and people, and human behavior is one of the vulnerabilities that hackers are trying to exploit. So being vigilant and being able to respond as humans and understand if someone is trying to target us, if someone is trying to use social engineering tactics is really critical. And when we do identify that, their ability to respond becomes really essential. So 3 main pillars: protecting yourself from known and emerging threats, having the situational awareness and anticipation of the harmful behavior, and being prepared and having the ability to recover to minimize the impact. And again, while cyber security is commonly associated with technology, this goes beyond technology. It goes to the behavioral aspects of what we do and our ability to recognize the threat and to be able to respond to the threat. It is a story from my experiences. Sometimes when we do the cyber simulations, we even talk about meditation, because the ability not to panic if something happens, if you see someone has stolen your Facebook password, so someone is impersonating you on LinkedIn, being able to be calm and not giving attackers more is very important, and knowing how to respond, knowing how to escalate those issues. So let's look more closely at the mobile device security today and how we can protect ourselves from some of the threats that we may face. So first one, very simple, just updating the operating system. Some of their mobile platforms will make it easier when they force you to update. Some of them you will need to take a bit more proactive steps and monitor for their updates regularly and making sure that you have the most up-to-date version of your software. That's important because some of the older versions may have known vulnerabilities that attackers may be able to exploit. Second is password protecting your device, and having more secure passwords is obviously very important, and having unique passwords are always very important. So generally, if you have different passcodes and passwords, don't reuse them, especially for those that are critical, such as phones. And there is a fine balance here, so don't create something overly complex that you won't be able to remember and will be forced to write it down, because that brings the security down. And now that you have up-to-date phone, it's protected with the password, you go out. Not that much in the pandemic scenario, but still, if you are in the area that has public Wi-Fi enabled, which is pretty much everywhere now, including stores, airports, and everything, most of the smartphones will have the ability to identify Wi-Fi hotspots and access them and join them. To be safe, when you travel, avoid logging into the critical accounts, especially accounts related to BPW and especially financial accounts when you're using public wireless networks. The best way would be not to join public networks and have your own data, having your own hotspots. However, sometimes that option may not be there. So if you still need to browse something, just be very careful when you log into your accounts on those networks. Similarly, there are some vulnerabilities associated to Bluetooth, and Bluetooth is a great way to connect different devices, to connect to your headphones, to do a lot of other very useful things. However, it also makes it easier for the attackers to get hold of your phone. So the best, unless you really have to, you can disable Bluetooth, or you can kind of use Bluetooth in a hidden mode. And last one here is think before you click. So before you respond to someone's solicited email or message that you may have received, before you register or download some information, make sure that their source is reputable. And if you download an app to your mobile device, make sure that it's a legitimate app and it's from the trusted company, and otherwise don't engage. So now let's look at the top mistakes that individuals face when they use their mobile devices. First one is failing to lock your device. To know you have this great, very secure password, make sure you use it. Make sure that you lock your device at any time when you're not using it. It will really help, especially when the device is lost or stolen, just to prevent someone from grabbing it and running away with a locked device. And enable the auto lock as well. Second one is not updating the apps. So as important as it is to update the operating system, which is absolutely critical, it's also important to update the applications. And applications are developed by people as well. People are not perfect, so the applications are not always perfect, and they may have some vulnerabilities and security flaws. When those are identified, the updates for the apps are issued, so it's also very important to monitor for those updates and download them as they are released, to make sure that you protect from cybercriminals leveraging known vulnerabilities. Last one is, in regards to the content management, is being very mindful of what you open. Sometimes we have a false sense of security when we're using smartphones, and we think that it's less critical to pay attention, because less bad things can happen when you use mobile device, which is not necessarily true. There are a number of ways that you can still access questionable content on the mobile device, and some of them could be someone could be targeting you, sending you messages. Some of them could be spam messages and text messages, and as well as downloading apps that are not from legitimate store, as some smartphones allow third-party stores. So when you download the software from such of the store, what could happen is that you may end up downloading the free software that would actually be malicious software, and that might give the attackers access to the personal information on your device. And as we all have personal information of other people as well, such as their contact details, they can expose other people as well. And again, just a reminder, when you use public Wi-Fi or secure Wi-Fi, be very mindful of how you use it and what you use when you're on that Wi-Fi, because those networks are one of the top mistakes that we see generally in regards to using mobile devices. I mentioned the Bluetooth technology before, and it's very useful, but it's very important to understand the security risks associated to it. And it really depends on how it's configured and whether you allow someone to discover your device or not. And however, not all of us are very aware of those types of attacks, and also sometimes we just don't have time, especially when we need to quickly connect to something. So we just need to be mindful of that can present the threat. So first tip is disable Bluetooth entirely if you don't have to use it. Generally good idea. If you don't have to use some feature that can expose you, just make sure it's disabled. Second one, if you are using it, try to use it in a hidden mode. So that you will be allowed to do that from the settings on your phones. So when you enable the Bluetooth, you can set it to be hidden, not discoverable, and that will prevent from people who are just scanning everything to be able to recognize your device and trying to connect to it. Also, generally be aware of your environment. If you're in a public environment, make sure that you prevent yourself from your device being paired with other devices and unsolicited devices. So if you, for instance, we talked about using public Wi-Fi, so if you're using a hotspot, there is a risk that someone may be able to intercept the connection. So you need to be very careful what you potentially transmitting over Bluetooth. And last one, just take advantage of the available security settings. So a lot of apps that use Bluetooth would allow you to have different security settings to configure that. So make sure that you select the options that meet the needs and mitigate the risks that may be there. And with that, hopefully those tips were helpful for you. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to contact me or any members of your club. Thank you so much. And that was the second part of this series. We will have 2 more parts dedicated to the social networks and online security. Hope you enjoyed them as well. Thank you.
A great thanks to our speaker, Alexandra Simonova of BPW Grand Cayman, where she's vice president. We really appreciate your expertise when it comes to the field of cybersecurity and for sharing that knowledge with us so freely. In this video, we heard all about the security when it comes to our mobile devices. We're all really connected many, many hours every day to our phones, and we use them for many functions. And it is critical that we understand how to keep ourselves secure in that, and particularly when it comes to BPW, of course. So when we are using our mobile phone to connect with BPW to particularly access any financial or other records and so on, especially if your records are in the cloud, we need to know how to keep that device secure. So thanks again to Alexandra for telling us all about that. And we hope that this is really helpful to you, the viewer. We thank you for coming to another of our video tutorials given by our young BPW members, the true experts in this area. We'll all agree, I'm sure. And we invite you to also come to one of our live webinars. We have a couple of them each month. And that allows you the chance to be there in real time with the presenter and to ask your questions and comment and discuss. So we look forward to engaging you in upcoming tutorials and upcoming webinars, and we hope to see you soon. Bye for now.